The fear of failure?
Mhm.
At this point in my life, it's almost a fear of I've been doing this for so long,
Yeah.
and like I said, my support system is great. The support system I was born into and the friends that I've met along the way, and I have a lot of cheerleaders behind me. And so the idea of coming to the conclusion that this might not be right for me and I'm gonna try something else, there's almost a fear of, like, letting people down and a
Mhm.
fear of, "But what if I just stopped too soon? What if,
Yes,
if I just, like, kept
yeah.
going? Who knows?"
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Office Visits with Dr. V. Another treat in store. Yes, you hear my guest laughing. She is ready to go. She is
I
ready
am.
to go. You guys, welcome. And if this is your first time visiting or listening, I would love to say that you have come to the right place if you're trying to be happy and healthy. I am your host, Benita Vernado, MD. I'm a board certified OBGYN and a board certified lifestyle medicine physician. And I like to talk about all things health, happiness, and purpose and mission, and get you to do what you were born to do. And so, my guest today, she has walked this journey, and I am so excited for you guys to hear her story. Please welcome to the show, June Dare.
Hi.
Hello,
Hello, hello. Thank you for
hello,
having me.
hello. Yes, thank you for coming on. So I'm just going to fill in the listeners because she and her sisters, which I hope you'll tell us a little bit more about, they have is it a blog? Would you say it's a blog, June? Or what
It's
is it?
technically it's a business, but we call it a project. We use that term kind of loosely, and it's a new thing. We started it in 2020, so it's only about 3 years old, and it is a project slash business called The Welcome Table, and what we do is we produce resources that help encourage conversation and help foster relationship, and some of the resources that we produce so far have been a weekly reflection email that we send to our subscribers. It's completely free. And the reflection is either written by one of us or a guest writer. And it's a faith-based business. That's an important
Mm-hmm.
detail. And so we'll start off the reflection with setting the table, if you will, which
Mm-hmm.
encourages you to just take a couple deep breaths, grab a cup of coffee, feel yourself in this moment, and then we'll have a one-liner to kind of brief you for what you're about to read, some quotes, some Bible verses, and then the reflection body. And then at the end of that, we have creative ways that you can incorporate the principles of the reflection, some discussion questions that can also be used for journaling prompts, and then some ways that you can bring it to children. If there are children in your life that you
Yeah.
want to share this with. And we also have a couple books that are focused around Advent, which is when the Welcome Table started. We started around Christmas time, and we released a series of emails focused on Advent. And then the response that we got from that was way more than I think any of us were expecting. And so we were like, "Okay, there's something here. Let's keep going." And so about a year later, yeah, I know. I feel like I've just gone on like a rabbit hole or a
So no, no,
rabbit.
no. I'm a subscriber, and that's how I came to know you because one of your sisters is one of my patient friends for years. And so I read the welcome table and it didn't say who wrote the reflection. And
Mhm.
I was like, this is my kind of person. And come to find out it was you. So, real quickly, let's see. I usually have people tell their bios, but I think if you can just share what was in the reflection, I think that might give us a good idea potentially, or the story behind the reflection. That might give us an idea of who you are.
Sure. So this reflection, I should have reread it before doing this podcast, but what I remember is it focused on just like life. and how
Mhm.
we have no idea where it's gonna go, and how sometimes you have to take some risks. And
Yeah.
during a portion of that reflection, I talked about my recent choice to dive full force into acting. I've been acting my whole life, pursuing it professionally for about 15 years, but never fully. It's always been like acting, but also these other jobs, which is a pretty common story with a lot of actors because,
Right.
you know,
Right.
income is unreliable. And I was in a position where I was in a very comfortable spot in terms of life, I guess. I was living in my hometown. I was working at my dad's law firm. You know, I like my coworkers. It was a very safe job, you know.
Yeah.
It
Yeah. That's real safe if your dad's the boss. I mean,
I mean, like,
real
if I'm gonna get fired, I would have to do something very bad,
exactly.
and I was just feeling unfulfilled, I guess. I was still
Oh,
acting. Oh, there it is. There it is.
unfulfilled fulfillment. That's my word. You
Yes,
were feeling unfulfilled.
I was
Wow.
feeling unfulfilled, and I was still acting, but because of the hours of the job, I felt like a lot of my time was being dedicated to something that I didn't really have a passion for. I was good at it,
Mm-hmm.
and like I said, I enjoyed my coworkers. It was, 9 to 5 kinda job, but it was not what I wanted to do. And so I'm very fortunate that I have a very solid support team. Like,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
bench of my support team is very deep, and I was living with my boyfriend, and I just kinda told him what I was thinking, and I was like, "I think I wanna leave the law firm and pursue acting full time. What do you say?" Because that would affect him too. He would need to, give his consent on now having a live-in partner who could not contribute financially the way that I had been.
Right.
And because he is an angel, he was like, "Don't worry about it, I got you." And so, I left the law firm, and with the intentions, and this kinda goes back to the you never know where life is gonna go, with the intentions of diving into acting full time, and yeah, that's that's where I'll stop that portion of the story.
So you've always acted, right?
Mhm.
But little June, like when you grew up, did you have any idea of what you wanted to do or the person you wanted to be? Was that very clear and somehow you lost your way, or were you just kind of a free spirit, didn't know what you were gonna do?
I don't think that so, kind of both. I've wanted to be an actor since I was 9. I saw the movie
Wow.
Titanic, and my life just changed. As soon as Rose's hat, like, flips up and you see Kate Winslet's face, I was like, "I wanna do that. That looks amazing." And I was 9, and so I was, of course, drawn to, like, the drama of it and the glamour of it, and
Mhm, mhm.
being in front of people, even though before this, Doctor V and I were talking about how nervous I am. I get nervous, but being in front of people has never been, like, an issue for me. And so I'm just a ham, basically. And so I was like, "This is what I'm gonna do." And so I always had the ambitions of being an actor, but at the same time, and this is something that I've never really thought about before, like, I there was always something stopping me. And this is
Mm.
I'm, like, trying to think of how to articulate this.
Take your time.
Sure. So, as much as I've always wanted to be an actor, I still struggle with whether or not I actually want to be a professional actor. Like, there's
Mm.
something about, um, the craft of it that I love, but whether or not the business of it is right for me is something that I still struggle with. And so and, like, I've been wrestling with this for 15 years or so. And so, while growing up, I always knew that I wanted to be an actor, I was attracted to that. There was a block there of, like, moving to New York or LA and, like, jumping into it, and that's something that I tried later in life, which kind of didn't work out so much. But yeah, there's that's a great question and probably something that I need to talk about with, like, a therapist. Just, like, what exactly the disconnect was or is.
Is it fear?
I don't know. I don't know. That might be part of it, the fear of failure.
Mhm. Mhm.
At this point in my life, it's almost a fear of I've been doing this for so long,
Yeah.
and like I said, my support system is great. The support system I was born into and the friends that I've met along the way, and I have a lot of cheerleaders behind me.
Yeah, you do.
So, I do, I do. I'm very, very fortunate. And so the idea of coming to the conclusion that this might not be right for me and I'm gonna try something else, there's almost a fear of, like, letting people down and a
Mhm.
fear of, "But what if I just stop too soon? What if,
Yeah.
if I just, like, kept
Yeah.
going? Who knows?"
Yeah.
And I made the comment that is something that I need to talk about with a therapist. It actually is something that I'm talking about with a life/career coach that
Mhm.
I have.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I'm gonna have
So
to like, do some deep digging on that one.
I'm so glad you're talking about this and we're seeing it in real time because the reason I wanted you on the episode is because I believe that we come here with a purpose and what we're supposed to do. And in childhood, I think it's the best time that we kind of get a glimpse of that. But
Mhm.
somehow we kind of get off track. And then that feeling of unfulfillment sinks in.
Yeah,
But there's still these, I know I'm not happy here, or I know I need to be doing something different. But there are all these social constructs that kind of keep you in your box.
yeah,
And so, some of us have taken the leap. I've taken the leap. But I love the transparency that even when you have taken the leap, there's still like, am I doing the right thing? It's not like as soon as you take the step, it's not like everything falls into place. There's still a journey that you need to go through.
for sure.
Um, do you feel more of a sense of fulfillment now?
I feel like I'm on the right path, at least.
Okay.
Um, so to fill the listeners and potentially you in, about a year ago, a little over a year ago is when I left the law firm to jump into acting full time, and I put that in quotes because as soon as I left the law firm, I picked up, like, odd jobs here and there that took the time that the law firm took, and then I started another job that offered more flexibility and was more conducive for pursuing a career in acting. And so, like, I kinda replaced my safety net with another safety net. But then in May, I decided to move to the Atlanta area from North Carolina. And that was a big move because I
Mhm.
was living with my boyfriend and he's still in North Carolina. And so I've just put him through the ringer like, hey, baby, I'm going to leave a safe job and now I'm going to leave you. Is that okay? Do you feel okay about that?
I
Um,
love you.
all right. I love you. And to be clear, just leave him in distance.
Yeah, yeah.
And I feel like this I feel like I'm on the right path in the sense that I am determined to not leave this until I know for sure. And if that means that I have to jump completely in and like, put myself completely in it so that I cannot turn around one day and be like, "Oh god, I wish I would've,"
Oh,
then come to the conclusion that it's not right for me, then it is what it is, but I don't want to stop until I can, with certainty or with not contentment, there's a word that I'm looking for, but it's essentially until I can say and feel okay about saying, "This isn't it for me. I gave it my absolute best shot, and it's just not what I feel led to do anymore."
mm. So you've taken the risk, which, as you said before, in life, you do have to take some risks.
Yes.
You've taken a risk, though, on a career that's not guaranteed to make you any money,
Mm-mm.
and you face rejection on a daily basis. So, like, oh, well, not a daily basis. I don't know. But you can go out for auditions and they're like, no, you're not right for the part. So you were saying that you got into a comparative mindset.
Yeah,
So tell us a little bit about that.
sure. So earlier we talked about why this barrier that I have been feeling my whole life of I want to be an actor, been wanting to be an actor since I was 9, but why then have I never just like jumped right in with both feet? And I genuinely don't know why that is. I'm going to have to think about it and
Mhm,
consult some people about it. But one of the things that inspired me to take the leap from my very safe law firm job was that I had gotten into a comparative mind. And typically, that is not a good thing. Everyone has their own plate, but I don't regret this moment. And I
mm,
very vividly remember sitting on the floor of my bedroom, and my boyfriend was sitting in there with me, and I was, like, packing a bag or something and just crying, and he was like, "What's happening?" And I had been thinking about some of my peers, some of my acting peers who
mhm,
either
mhm,
started
mhm.
when I did or started after I did, and looking at where their careers were and where mine was, and considering what the difference was. And to be perfectly clear, there are a lot of differences between me and these peers, some of which I can control, some of which I cannot control. But the main difference that I saw that I could control was that they had taken the risk of jumping in full force without any seemingly any consideration for like, I don't care if I end up broke on the side of the road.
Mm,
I wanna do this, and
mm.
that strategy seemed to really serve them, and so I was like, "You know what? Let's do it. I'm not getting any younger, so here we go." And that led me to where I am right now, talking to you.
That's amazing.
Thank
That's amazing. And the fact that you're saying that it's not exactly, I don't know if this is for me, but you do it anyway. I think it's the epitome of do it scared, like I'm going to give it my all and I don't know where this is going to go. And I love that energy.
thank you. That's one of my favorite sayings, or, "Do it scared and dare to do the things that scare you," is one of my favorite sayings. And
Mm.
not just because my middle name is Dare, but it is a big benefit. But yeah, like, there are always gonna be terrifying risks to take and terrifying things to do, some of which you choose to do and some of which are thrust upon you. Um, but just do it scared, and it'll be
It was
okay.
scared. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. And it's like
Yeah.
it comes with the job. So you are kind of wavering, like, is this it for me? For now, I'm going forward. But how do you continue to pursue this with those type of, I don't know, challenges
Mhm.
that just come with the job? How do you do that and get up every day and keep going back?
Community is extremely important.
Mm,
If And I'm sure there are some actors that feel very isolated where they are, especially, nowadays where so much is virtual. So, like, even if you're a part of a virtual community, you're still physically isolated sometimes. If I were by myself trying to do this with no guidance, with no peers, with no, like, outside encouragement, just me going at it, I don't know how long I could last. My community has been imperative
Mhm,
in
mhm,
persistence, and I feel like
mm.
that's probably the case with, like, everything in the world that is on this earth.
Yeah, yes, it absolutely is, and, you know, for those regular listeners, one of the lifestyle medicine, pillars of health is social relationships.
Mm,
And you know, there have been studies that have shown that increases your lifespan. Like it's not like your cholesterol level or your blood pressure, it's your connections. And so those things are very, very important. So, you know, to the listeners who are thinking that, you know, I need to make a change and I need to hop out, you know, it definitely is much easier with the support of your tribe.
mhm.
I just oof, tell us about your tribe. Like what does your community look like? How do they make you feel? What do you get from your relationships with them?
Lord, they my community, like I said before, the bench on my support team is very deep. My community consists of instructors, past and present, mentors, friends, fellow actors, fellow performers. I can think of 3 right off the top of my head. One is a fellow actor who's also, like, actor, photographer, instructor, he does all the
Tap
things.
dancer.
Yes, and he is several years older than me, which I think is key also as a
Mm,
part of your community. I think it's really important to surround yourself with people who are in the same boat as you, people who have been in that boat, and people who have not yet gotten to that boat. People who are in the same boat as you, people who have been in that boat, and then people who have not yet gotten to that boat.
mm. And why is that important?
I think it helps in a lot of different aspects. If you're with people who are in the same boat as you, then you have that community to share, "This is what I'm going through, you're going through it too.
Right.
Thank God. Let's riff." And also to, in the times when you are just beaten down. This happened to me the other day. I was so defeated. I had spent and this happens. It
Uh-huh.
happened. It's just part of the job. I had spent a long time preparing for an audition, and it did not go well, and it ended, and I was just like I felt so defeated, frustrated, and, like, mad at myself for not doing some things differently, like, in the moment, I should have known better than to do whatever,
Oh gosh.
and it happens, and so, if I didn't have people that I could reach out to and just be like, "This is how I'm feeling, this is what happened," and not have others who were like, "Yep, been there, I'm so sorry.
Mhm.
Do you want a
Mhm.
hug?" Or even people who have, been there and like, "This is what I did in that moment," and so now you have another tool to put in your belt for the next time you're in that position. So, that's in my mind, the value of the people who are in your boat.
Right.
People who have been in your boat are they can give that guidance and that encouragement as someone who has been there. You see that they have gone through what you've gone through, and they have moved forward from that. If you
Mhm.
ask them how they moved forward from that, they can help you avoid potential mistakes that they made.
That they
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and or if they see you, like, going down a path that isn't serving you, it's important to have people be like, "That's not smart." Sorry.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Yeah.
and then I have a very good friend who is not quite in the boat that I'm in, and she'll reach out to me for advice, and, I'm that person for her, and I love her dearly, and I see so much potential in her. She's so talented,
Mm.
she has such a great look, she has such a great personality, and I want if there's any of my experience that can help fast track her into, avoiding pitfalls or when she feels very discouraged or very alone in this industry, to be a person who can encourage her through those times. I think it does a lot for putting the business in perspective and for putting relationships in perspective, to
Yeah.
be the person who isn't always and I'm gonna try to say this carefully, but, like, when someone hasn't been in the boat that you're in and they need the wisdom that you have, it's important to be a giver and not just the person who's, like, constantly asking advice or asking help or
Right, right. Absolutely.
there's always
The
a
oth
balance.
the other thing I would say too about the person who hasn't been in your boat, sometimes they're not as jaded as you
Yeah,
are. They still have the enthusiasm and the love, and sometimes when, things get hard in life, you lose that. And so to have that energy around you, even though sometimes you're like, "Girl, you don't know what you talking about." It's like but it's still like I remember when I was like that. That is a wonderful point. I don't I knew that you'll be a great guest, but this is a very interesting conversation that we're having about community and who needs to be in your community because, I know that you're one of four girls and
yeah,
your family's really, really close. And I was expecting you to say your tribe was your family.
they're
And
a part of it, a big
and
part.
they are definitely a part of it. But for so many people, they don't have a family like your family.
Mhm.
And so sometimes they feel alone, but you said all of these other people that you've kinda met along the way that have become your tribe. And so I just wanna encourage people to identify those people who make a difference and who speak to you and, are invested in what's best for you. That's really nice.
Mhm.
Who can tell you when you're wrong? Or do you have people in your life like that that can really just tell you the truth?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. The 2 that stand out immediately are one of my sisters. Speaking of my family, she will, in a heart she's one of, like, the very few people on this planet that I can 100% be myself with, and
Mm.
I think I'm that way with her too, and so she has the wisdom and, like, protectiveness of being my big sister, so she's not gonna let me make a mistake, and also, I'm her little sister, so she has no trouble being like, "That's stupid," or "You're being too judgy," or, you know? And then I have another friend, the one of the friends who I was talking about earlier, one of the 3 people, she is one of the wisest, most like, I mean, she's a phenomenal actress, but she's also very wise and very generous, and
Mhm, mhm.
she is one of the reasons why I'm in Atlanta right now, because I was kind of going down a different version of this path, and she encouraged me to just go to Atlanta. Like, why wouldn't you go to Atlanta?
Why wouldn't you? What do you
Yeah,
have to lose?
exactly.
Wow. Well, that's what I was gonna say. Sometimes when we're unfulfilled, the people who really know you can sense it. And it's really beautiful when people can say, I see you and this isn't you, and encourage you to do the very thing that you're scared to do. Now that you're there, and I know, is this for me? Is this not for me? And we're talking about being fulfilled, which I think is a very key component of, wellness. How has your health, your mental health changed, either improved or not improved What about your physical health? Like, are you able to exercise more or, what has changed for you now that you're kind of going after that thing?
Hmm. Physically, I and I don't wanna be a downer. Physically, I am not in as good of shape as I was, but I feel like that is because I'm still in a transitional period. I'm still figuring my life out down here and just sort of in a limbo state. And I've always, or not always, but since I was a teenager, have tried to keep an active lifestyle. And so
Mhm.
I am able to maintain that, but the intensity or the specific exercise that I used to do, I haven't quite gotten back into that rhythm, but I will. So that's a temporary thing.
How long
And
have you been in Atlanta real quick?
since May. And so since May, but I wanna, like, divide that in half because over the summer, I was back and forth a lot between home and here, and then I was in Boston for a little bit, and so
Okay.
I've been here, but I haven't, like, been here for
Okay. So
yeah,
like 3 or 4 months. Okay. So we're not as active as we used to be.
no.
But have
Yeah.
some things improved? Like, how's your mental health? Has that improved?
I don't know,
That's
'cause
probably not a good question.
I don't know.
Look, after your audition, you're probably like, "What the heck am I doing?"
Right, I know. This part I don't know if you wanna keep this part in the podcast.
Keep it
No.
going, keep it going, it's the
Okay.
truth.
Yeah, it's here we are. It has been a hard time because I've been doing a long distance relationship now, and
Mhm.
that has been difficult. I mean, I feel like we're doing about as good as you can do after having been
Yeah.
together for 6 years, and then one person
Oh,
scoops.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah,
right.
that's a long time.
And
Shout
so
out to the boyfriend.
seriously, he's amazing, and so that's been a big part of, like, the weight of, "All right, well, I'm here, and I'm not trying to waste any time, so let's do this." Yeah, it's just been a hard transition. I almost wanna come back in, like, a year after I've gotten my feet under me and
Mhm, mhm.
hopefully figured some things out and re-answer that question. But in terms of what first inspired you to invite me to be a guest on the podcast, taking the control of my life to leave something that I didn't feel was serving me to more fully pursue something that is serving me, I feel like can do nothing but add quality to my life. I remember what
Yes.
my mental state was like before then, and just sort of seeing day after day my life pass me doing something that I didn't care about, and here we are
Mhm,
again. Uh,
mhm.
and then and I've done it a few times. There have been a few times in my life where I've left a job that a lot of people would be like, "You're an idiot for leaving that job, but okay." But as soon as I do, there's no regret about it. It's
Mhm,
it's just
mhm.
a matter of taking charge of my life and
I love what you're saying because yeah, I wanna keep this in the podcast about, this might not be what I thought it was gonna be,
yeah,
but it is the fact that you took that step. You took the step, and you won't regret not doing it.
right.
I've said before, I think on several episodes, that the things that people regret on their deathbed are the things that they didn't do, that they wanted to do with all their heart and never did. And so I think just even taking that leap, even if it doesn't work out, it can only serve you because you're a serial leaper. Like
I'm a serial leaper, man.
you
Holy
got it.
cow.
And why is that? I mean, you've done it and you've realized, all the bad things that you think can happen probably don't happen. Like you don't did you end up homeless? No, you didn't end up homeless. Okay. Yeah. So I think it makes it easier when you take that leap to take more risks, which can only serve you and get you to where, your purpose is.
Well, thank
I
you.
really like that, June.
Thank you. I've never been called a serial leaper before, but that might be the truest definition of my life. I just leap from one thing to another. And you're right. Sometimes it either doesn't work out or, isn't going the way I hoped it would or the way I thought it would, or it leads me down a path where I need something else. And then you just jump to another thing. Some people
Gosh.
really hate change, but I'm not one of those people.
Have you always been that way? Like, you're not risk averse?
I'm not. I guess in some instances I am. Like when it comes to my physical safety, I am pretty risk averse.
Okay, good.
Uh, um, I have it on my 45 before 45 to skydive, and I want to because it terrifies me so much, but that's like the only physically risky thing that I have on there. But in terms of just like life, and again, this is spoken from a place of extreme privilege. I have the privilege of knowing,
Mm,
or at least feeling 98% confident that no matter what I do, because of my support system, I won't end up on the street. I'm not gonna, the worst case scenarios for me are I move back home. Bummer. And
right,
and there
right,
are a lot of people that don't have that luxury.
right.
I wanna I wanna say that.
Thank you for saying that. Thank
Yeah.
you for saying that because that is very, very true. That is
Yeah.
very and you have to think about those things when you're kind of taking these risks. I'm a believer and I really believe that even if you don't have that privilege that you just spoke of, that God always has somebody, something to provide for you when you're following his path and following his lead. So it may feel like you don't, but I can testify that things show up that you needed right on time that you did not have when you took that step. So, but that's real talk. It is a privilege. So, when we talk about not being able to, I mean, things not working out, like currently, so we're recording this the September 2nd. So we're still in the acting and writers strike,
Yes.
but you're saying you're going on audition. So, I don't know. I'm just curious and just for our listeners, because this has probably nothing to do with the podcast topic, but
Right.
what's going on with that? And how does it feel to like be a part of that?
Sure. I wanna immediately say a disclaimer and say that I'm not the biggest expert on the writers and actors strike. I I know what I know, but it's nothing compared to what's actually out there for people to learn.
Right.
So, to be and your question was, how does it feel to be an actor in the midst of all this? To me, it feels really cool, and others might disagree with me because once again, I'm in a position of luxury where I have backup income. There are a lot
Mhm.
of people who do not have backup income and
Mhm.
who have been severely affected by their unions going on strike. But I was listening to a podcast the other day, and Fran Drescher is the president of SAG-AFTRA, and
Mhm.
listening to her talk, I was just like, "Hell yes, woman." It's just she was talking about how much of a historic moment this is for actors and performers and standing up for what we feel like we deserve. And up until this point, from my perspective, this industry has kinda I hope I'm years from now, I hope someone's not gonna play this back and be like, "Hey, remember when you said this?" In, like, a bad way. But from my perspective, there has always been this mentality of desperation that keeps actors and performers at the bottom of the totem pole. because there are so many of us. And so I feel like people have gotten away with being like, "Hey, how badly do you want this?" Because if you don't want it that badly, then someone right behind you.
Somebody else would, yeah.
And so
Ooh,
it's been easy to take advantage of us, to not give us pay that makes sense for a lot of other industries, to set requirements for us that are unrealistic or damn near abusive in some cases. It's kind of ridiculous, but I've I can't speak for anyone else. I've always carried this like, "Well, that's the biz. If you wanna do it, this is what you gotta deal with." And now
yeah.
and that's just kind of been like an accepted thing. In regard to doing auditions during the strike, to clarify, the audition that I did was a commercial audition, which is one of the forms of filmmaking that is allowed under the strike.
Got it. Okay. That's important to mention. Thank you. Because I wasn't sure. I knew that there was a strike, and I don't think anybody's acting, but commercials. And is there anything else that you guys allow right now?
There's a lot that's allowed under the strike. I actually have a list,
Oh,
which I can't it's not an exhaustive list, but under the strike right now, this is not everything that's allowed, but currently, non-struck work includes soap operas, variety shows, talk shows, reality shows, game shows, anything covered by the interim agreement, industrials, radio, television, and digital commercials, as well as infomercials and jingles, music videos, the news, episodic and long form animated programs for television and new media, public television, video games, dubbing, audiobooks, podcasts, and the union, from what I understand, is encouraging actors to still pursue employment under these guidelines. And there
got
is
it.
more. That was not everything, but
Wow. That's a pretty long list. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that with us and clarifying. Because
absolutely,
here at Office Visits with Dr. V, we always want to give accurate
yeah,
and reliable information. So
yeah,
thank you.
absolutely. So the other day I had a commercial audition and I had worked really hard preparing for this commercial audition, and it did not go well. And it just
Mm,
that's just like it happens.
hmm.
And I was very frustrated. I was feeling very defeated. And if I didn't have the support system that I do to be able to reach out to them and either, just vent because I needed to, or ask their advice and have them, you know, hug me or or
Mhm,
give
mhm.
me an ear and a shoulder, or people on my team to be like, "You know what? It's happened to me before, and here is
Yeah.
something that I've done in that instance, and now you can, put that tool in your tool belt, and you have that for the future." So it
Mm,
really is having a support system is truly invaluable in so many ways. But based
mm,
on what I know about the interim agreement and the standards that SAG-AFTRA is trying to uphold, that hopefully will be changing. Um,
mm.
I don't know when. I don't know how long this strike is gonna last. I've heard different things, but I really, really, really hope we don't cave. And I'm not even a member of SAG. I'm
Right.
not even a member of SAG-AFTRA, but it would it would make me sad if we don't get what we want. I know
I
that sounds
mean,
really spoiled, but it's like it's not even a "give us what we want." It's like, treat us like humans
fairly, right.
fairly.
You're making 400 millions and billions, and we're making like $15 an hour, and you're making the money off of what we do, and
Mm,
I think it's only fair.
yeah.
That's I'm gonna wrap up our episode, but desperation kind of puts you in positions where you can be taken advantage of and not, and I guess you know your value, but I don't know. There's a nugget in there somewhere. Being desperate and feeling like, your options are limited. It
Mhm.
it probably allows you to accept things that you really shouldn't.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, or fear, which I desperation, I feel like the root of desperation
yeah,
is fear of not getting whatever carrot someone's dangling in front of you and being afraid that that's the last carrot there ever will be.
right. And we know that's not the truth.
Right.
We know that's not the truth. And I will say for our listeners, you're in an industry where that's probably a true statement. But there are other people who continue to do things in life that they have other opportunities, but they feel like this is the only care they're ever going to get. I mean, if you're a nurse, you can go to any hospital, really
Yeah.
you can, but for some reason you feel like you got to stay right here. So I think that allows us to have some hope. And what I would love, just kind of, the welcome table, I love reading it. So tell us how, people can subscribe to the welcome table and how can they get in touch with you?
Sure. You can subscribe to the Welcome Table by going to thewelcometable.co, not com, thewelcometable.co, and there's a button for you to subscribe, and you plug in your email address, and it's completely free, and then you will get our weekly emails. And if you don't want to read them anymore, then you can unsubscribe, and that's
Unsubscribe.
fine. No hard feelings. It's cool. I will say that all of our guest writers are absolutely incredible, and so I highly recommend that you subscribe and just get a pearl of wisdom every Monday morning. And you can get in touch with me through junedare@gmail.com, and you can go to my Instagram, actor Junedare, and my Facebook page is also actor Junedare. So Instagram, actor Junedare, Facebook, actor Junedare, and I'm junedare@gmail.com.
Love it,
Yes.
June there. Well, we will definitely have that in the show notes. And so, I thank you for coming on. I
Absolutely.
love it. For the listeners, we have questions or ideas, but I just really never know where the conversation's going to go. But I
Yes.
feel like it always goes where it needs to go. And so I really feel like you've kind of balanced us today and just given us a very fresh perspective on, living a life of risk and doing what you feel like you're called to do. And if it doesn't work out, you can always do something different. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that message.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your questions. That one question that got me, like, I'm gonna have to do some deep digging on that aspect of my life and my life journey. You asked phenomenal
Ooh.
questions, so thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, June there, you can look at it on Office Visits with Dr. V
Thank
on
you.
YouTube if you need to hit it
I
back.
need to
So
revisit.
you need to revisit. So all right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And I'll see you next time on another episode of Office Visits with Dr. V. Stay well.